It's nice to be here with you this morning. I really appreciate the invitation to come talk a little bit about the TxDOT Rail Division and what it is that we do and who we are. It's we're not as obscure as Peter makes it sound. Maybe in the beginning, we have a seat at the big boy table these days, but I want to tell you a little bit about who we are and some of the things that we have going on right now. So I like to take a dig. You know, we're part of TxDOT, and TxDOT's known as the highway people, right? In fact, they were back in 1917. The Highway Department was formed in the state of Texas. That was the predecessor name of TxDOT. It wasn't changed to TxDOT until the 1990s. But I take a dig because the rail division is a direct descendant of the Texas Railroad Commission, which was formed way back in 1891, a full 26 years before the Highway Department was formed. And so I have to take my digs when I can against Big Brother. So we are older than they are. We'll talk a little bit about who we are, what we do, and how we fit with inside the TxDOT footprint. So I got Jason Crouch in the back of the room. He's going to work the camera for me. So let's get started, Jason. So I'll talk a little bit about me first. So that's me there that you see. I started in the railroad business back in 1989, working for Trinity Industries as a laborer over in Dallas. My first job in the railroad business was making springs that go on the trucks for rail cars. Did that and kind of worked my way up through manufacturing of rail cars into management, plant management in manufacturing plants, building rail cars and locomotives. Did that for a long time, then went over to Progress Rail, got into rail car and locomotive repair shops, intermodal mechanical operations, air testing of trains, all of those things. And then I've been with TxDOT for almost 2 years, but 13 years before that, I was Vice President of Operations for Hulter Services. So cleaned up train derailments all over North America, United States, Canada, and Mexico, about a dozen of them a day. So did that 24/7 operations. And so about maybe a year and 9 months ago, I left and came to TxDOT, originally in a position as section director of one of the sections I'm going to talk about here in a minute over rail safety, with oversight of all the freight railroads and passenger rail in the state. And then about 8 months ago, got the opportunity to move into the role that I'm in now as a director. And it was eye-opening, because there's a lot of things a lot of ground we're getting ready to cover, and things that the rail division does for a group that not most people know much about. And so we'll get started on that. So let's go ahead, Jason. So we fall in the TxDOT organization in the multimodal section, multimodal world. And so we're in with people like the aviation division, who have oversight of all the airports, both public and private, in the state of Texas. They dole out grant money, they set policy, they do all kinds of things in the aviation space. We're also in with the maritime division. They have oversight of all the ports and intercoastal waterway in Texas. So they're partners of mine. Public transportation, who we have some representatives here from PTN today, they work with and have oversight of public transit, bus systems, paratransit in communities with population less than 300,000 in the state. So they have oversight of those agencies. And then transportation planning and programming is in with us. They have control of the UTP, which is where all the money comes from for all the projects within TxDOT. So you put all 5 of us together, and we are the multimodal group. We report up through Caroline Mays, who I haven't seen her. I thought she was going to be here this morning, but we all report to Caroline. Of course, she reports up through Brandy Hendrickson, the Deputy Executive Director, and Mark Williams, the Executive Director. And so that's how we fall within TxDOT. We're a small group, but we have a lot of things on the plate, a lot of people and a lot of freight moved through these 5 divisions of TxDOT every day. So you'll see 10,500 miles of railroad track in the state. That's by far the most of any state in the country. 3 Class 1 railroads, 51 short line railroads, 4 passenger commuter rail lines. What you won't see there is there's also 16 rural rail districts that operate in the state, and 6 regional transit authorities that operate light rail systems, heritage trolley systems, streetcar systems, and things like that. We're going to get into more of all of that later on in the presentation. 5,177 rail bridges in the state, by far the most of any state, which feeds into us having more bridges overall, meaning roadway bridges and railroad bridges, than any other state in the country. We have twice as many as the next largest state, and we have more bridges than the smallest 18 states combined in the state. So a lot of bridges going on. We'll talk a little bit about that later as well. So here's the organizational, the way that we're broke down in the rail division. I'm the director. I've got an administrative group, a business services group. They make sure that all the bills get paid, all the people get paid, everything that needs to get done. They take care of that. And then we've got 4 sections that all have their own responsibilities and people. We'll talk a little bit about those here in just a minute. Some of those people are here today. As we get to them, I'll try to introduce them. But that's how we're set up. We've got about 45 full-time positions, and then we utilize consultants that make up another dozen or so full-time employee equivalents that assist us on a daily basis. So here's the 4 sections. Planning and programming, Chad Coburn is here this morning. We've got Jamila Luwali, who's also here from this group. They oversee the rail plan, federal and state grants, and corridor studies. So all of the grants that we're going to talk about that are in play right now, that's the group that puts all that stuff together. They do tremendous work on behalf of the state and private stakeholders, municipalities when we partner with them. So we're going to get more into that. They also have administrative oversight of the South Orient Railroad, which Stan Metter did a fantastic job yesterday talking about the Texas Pacifico, that they're our operator on the South Orient Railroad. We'll talk more about that as well. And then they create all the tracking mechanisms for all the things that we do. So that's the planning and programming group. Rail letting, they do all of our contracts for us. So anytime that we have a TxDOT roadway that intersects with a railroad property, anytime that work needs to be done on the roadway, then we have contracts that have to be developed, scope of works have to be developed, and they do about 450 of those a year. So we'll get more into that later as well. Rail grade crossing, they administer Section 130 funding. We get $21 million a year from FHWA for Section 130. Grade crossings, they also manage the replanking program and preemption, signal preemption programs. And then rail safety and compliance, Jason Crouch is here this morning. He's back in the back helping me out. And he oversees the team of FRA fully certified state inspectors that are out every day inspecting railroads across the state in all disciplines, and we'll get into that more of that later as well. They do inspections and investigations. All right, Jason. So we'll talk first about some legislative action that took place last session in the 89th session of the Texas legislature. They established a $250 million grant program, or ordered us to develop the grant program to award that money to off-system grade separation. So let's talk about those so everybody in the room knows what we're talking about. Off-system means these are not TxDOT operated roadways. These are city streets, county roads, things like that. Intersections with railroads that don't typically have availability of funds to do something large and meaningful. And so the legislature did see fit to provide $250 million towards that. That relieves safety, congestion, and those are targeted towards the highest use projects that fit those that criteria. So in that program, you'll see 58 applications were submitted in round one from 37 entities, $2.5 billion in ask, vying for $250 million in money. And so we had, the need is out there. All of those projects were worthy. Not all of them met the criteria in phase one, and so they were not moved forward into phase two. You'll see that we did move about 37 projects forward that went into consideration. You'll see the breakdown there of the urban, rural, and pedestrian projects, what the ask was. And in the end, we evaluated all of these. We made recommendations to the Texas Transportation Commission, and we awarded 5 projects for $160 million so far. 2 of those were in Amarillo, 1 in San Antonio, 1 in Laredo, and 1 in Houston. Now, down there on the bottom, you'll see that we set aside $89.6 million of the state fund for future federal grants. And what we're doing here is we're going to try to leverage state funds to get access to federal funds. And so while we were in the middle of running our state program and evaluating those projects, the Federal Railroad Administration announced a $5 billion program geared towards passenger rail safety with a focus on grade separations, which was exactly what we were looking at. We were sitting on a pile of applications, and we had some money that had been given to us by the legislature. And so what we did was we evaluated all those projects that we had that met the criteria for the federal program, and we worked with the stakeholders for each of those, and we submitted all of those projects to the federal program, and we set aside enough money to be able to put up the match in case we're awarded those projects. There's about $800 million worth of projects in front of the FRA right now being evaluated. We should get answers on those by the end of June. I feel like we're going to be very well represented when it's all said and done. And so we've got money set aside there. This is a different approach. This hasn't been done before. The Rail Division's never been given this kind of money to run a state program, and then for the commission TxDOT leadership then to trust us enough to be able to let us run the play that we're running with this federal program to try to leverage state money to gain access to federal money. If we're successful the way that I believe we're going to be successful, this is going to be the blueprint moving forward for how you multiply the money that you have. So, we could go from, with the two, if the feds hadn't put out their program, we would have probably still awarded 5 projects. They might have been a slightly different mix. We would have given away the $250 million, and that would have been it. The potential we have now is we've already awarded the 5. There's 12 more that we could be awarded under the TxDOT program. There's 2 more that were submitted around the state from other stakeholders. We could go from what would have been 5 for $250 million to 19 projects worth $1.2 billion if we were to get them all. Now, will we get them all? Will we be awarded all of that? It's unlikely we'll be awarded all of it, but I feel like we're going to have something substantial to talk about here in a month and a half or so. So that's one of the things that we've been working on with our planning group is creative ways to get access to funds to be able to deliver projects for the railroads and for the traveling public in Texas. So, that talks a little bit about it. We also, on top of the $250 in the last legislative session, we were given $20 million with a focus on Houston. So we've got $10 million allotted for a pedestrian bridge next to Milby High School in Houston, which was the site of a tragic fatality of a high school student a few years ago. So that project is moving along very rapidly with cooperation from the Union Pacific. That's their line. They've been working with us. They've been tremendous partners on the approvals to get all that done. And so $10 million is earmarked for that pedestrian bridge. And then 2 grade separations. We have $5 million each to work on planning for those 2. And you'll see the locations there. Those are in Houston, Little York and Hirsch Road, and Tidwell and Hirsch Road. So those are grade separations that are in the planning phase. So that was also money that we were given by the legislature in the 89th session. We were also ordered by the same group of legislatures to develop a short line railroad grant program. They did not fund the program. We were still responsible for developing the program. We have done that. Last month in April, I went before the commission, got approval on the program that we will run once they fund that, hopefully in January when the new session, or the new session convenes. We're asking that they fund that so we can start to distribute some money to short line railroads. So that's something else that we're working on. So moving forward to assets, Rail Division manages the South Orient Railroad, which is operated by the Texas Pacific Coast. Those that were here yesterday got to hear Stan talk in more detail about it. It's a 385-mile short line railroad that runs from San Angelo Junction, which is outside of Brownwood, close to Coleman, Texas, down through San Angelo, Alpine, Marfa, and ultimately to Presidio, where years ago there was a international rail bridge that burned twice, and so it's been out of service. That end of the South Orient Texas Pacific has been out of service for years. Now they do operate freight traffic now into San Angelo with regularity, and then as far down as almost to Alpine, there's a quarry down there that Texas Pacifico services. So we're running traffic, or they're running traffic all the way down to Alpine now, but that'll soon be all the way to Presidio. So you see that we've been building for a number of years now a Customs and Border Patrol facility there at Presidio. The bridges have been rebuilt. We're now building the facilities that will house the scanner, the X-ray scanner that's being installed as we speak, that will be able to run traffic from Mexico northbound into the United States through the scanner, and just like it's being done at other ports of entry now across the border. We're looking at late summer to start testing. By the end of the year, we will be running freight cross-border from Mexico into the United States and from the United States into Mexico. Commodities likely will be, you heard from Stan, it'll be steel, it's going to be grain moving both directions, and things like that. So we're looking forward to getting that open. This has been a long, drawn-out affair, and I'm ready to get it done, and I know Stan's ready to get some traffic moving down there. So a lot of track upgrades will come with that as well. As soon as we get close to the finish line, then the parent company of Texas Pacifico is going to dump a bunch of money into the track upgrades, and so they're working to get their track speeds up. So South Orient, that's a big deal for us right now. It eats up a lot of our time every day, but we're going to get there pretty soon. So more photos of that. So back up one, Jason. So if you look in the far left-hand photo, that's looking through that slot you see. That's where the rail runs. The rail's taken out right now. The scanner is going to be in that slot. And what you're looking at, the mountain you see at the top of the frame, that's Mexico. So just beyond our facility is the levee that protects the city of Presidio from flooding from the Rio Grande, and that green space you see, that's the river. And then across the other side is Mexico. So a lot of work going on down there right now. This is a big investment from the federal government, a big investment from the state, and then of course Texas Pacifico and their parent company have put a lot of money in this as well. So it's a good partnership. All right, let's move on. All right, so the sections. So I talked a little bit about them, but the rail letting section, they clear about 145 contracts or projects for contracts a year. It's a staff of about 10 people that do that. Now these are right of entries. These are insurance requirements or questions, scopes of work for projects, things like that. They also do a big education outreach program within TxDOT and outside, teaching people how the things that we do, how they work. So they do a lot of training. They handle the insurance, and they also just completed back in March their second annual rail conference where we had 91 participants that came in for a couple days to our headquarters in Austin, and they were trained on how projects get cleared. These are district employees. We've got 25, TxDOT's got 25 districts across the state that house people and equipment that maintain roads, but they also execute railroad projects or projects when they're railroad adjacent. And so we bring them in, train them on how all that works. And so they just completed that back in March. So that was a big undertaking for the rail letting section. Patty Warnish, who's not here today, she's the section director on that and does a fantastic job on that. All right, let's move on. Grade crossing section. Kai Zhao is my section director. He is not here today either. They manage all of the grade crossing related things. Section 130. Section 130 is FHWA funding, federal highway funding that we get, $21 million a year that we use to execute projects on grade crossings. They can be all different types of projects. You can see on the top that for all Section 130 projects, there's 163 of them in the queue for $117 million. We only get $21 million a year. So you can see they're programmed out for the next 5+ years on just what we have now. And so there's lots of opportunities for grade crossing improvements that we would like to do that we're not currently able to do. They also, I'll brag on them a little bit. This group, they're very in tune to how much things cost and how long it takes to get them done. So with preemption problems, signaling preemption projects where we want to go in and upgrade signals, gates, and things like that, we were seeing multi-year wait times to get those projects done. And when we dug into it, we found that work was getting doled out to the districts. Part of the work is horizontal boring under the right-of-way, the railroad right-of-way and the intersections for the cabling that's required. And the problem was that the districts didn't have qualified contractors to be able to do that work. They didn't meet all the insurance requirements. They didn't know the rules of how you do it around railroads. And so what this group did is we went out and established a group of reliable contractors that met all the requirements. And now, prior to the districts and their contractors showing up to install the signals, we go in ahead of that and we do all the underground work. And when they show up, all the cabling is there and turned up for them right where they need it. And we've taken something that was taking about 2 years and we can now do it in about 30 days. So through the ingenuity of this group and thinking outside the box. And so I like to brag on them a little bit for getting that done. Then they're in charge of rail crossing inventory. And when you've got over 4,500 grade crossings, then that's a lot, because we have to know not only where they are, but what condition that they're in. You need to have current photos on file. You got to have all these things so that when you're sitting down and you're looking at how you're going to divvy up the money, you need to have real-time information that you can use to be able to grade those as to which ones should get the funding. And so they keep an updated grade crossing inventory, which is a huge undertaking. And you'll see that just recently they finished West Texas with actual field verifications with a person who went and looked at them. And then down in far South Texas, they are completed their Google Earth portion of that, and they'll be doing the face-to-face evaluations on those in the very near future. So they're busy. Rail safety, which is where I hired in to TxDOT. I came in, Jason's back there in the back. He's now the section director for rail safety. So under him, we've got 14 FRA certified accredited inspectors. They have the same authority as any FRA inspector. They go out and they inspect track, they inspect rail car mechanical, hazmat, signals and crossings. So all the disciplines are covered, and they're out every day doing that. And we're able to work with our railroad partners to operate as safely as possible. And so that's a big undertaking. We do that with a partnership with the FRA that we're very proud of. We maintain a good relationship with them, and we collaborate with them every day. Very recently, earlier in the year, the FRA announced that they were going to be rolling out a bridge inspection program. Some of you may have read about this. There wasn't any bridge inspections being done other than by the railroads. The federal government did not have a program. They did not have any federally accredited people to be able to do those inspections. Texas was pushing for this several years ago, and it was just through relentless dialogue. We used a lot of relationships. We called in a lot of favors. We got the ear of a lot of people in Washington, D.C., and through the efforts of the Rail Division, the FRA took our lead and developed a program. Now every state has licensed bridge inspectors on their staff that work in conjunction with the FRA. We're able to not only do inspections, but to ask for records for bridges, which we didn't have that authority before. We can ask for those records such as last inspections. Every bridge is required to have an engineer of record. We can ask to see that. We can verify that it does have an engineer assigned to it. If you say you're going to inspect it 3 times a year, are you really inspecting it 3 times a year? Are you not? Things like that, things we didn't have access to before. The FRA is now granted to the states, but by the efforts of the TxDOT Rail Division. So that's something that we like to take a little bit of credit for. Now, the FRA, when I was with David Fink, the administrator, a few weeks ago, he said they did it. I would dispute that with him. So they did do it, but at the urging of TxDOT. So we're proud of that. So from the 14 investigators that are out there every day, you'll see up here, from their opinions, the most pressing things out there right now that are causing or have the potential to cause serious injury or fatalities. Electronic devices is by far number 1. So what we're seeing is train crews and railroad employees in rail yards actively using their electronic devices, some while operating the train, some while riding the shove on the back of the train, got a phone in their hand, things like that. That is something that's going to get you an instant willful violation and an individual liability citation from the FRA if we catch you doing it. We're that serious about it. So you don't go from, we're going to warn you this time, you're going straight to a fine, probably $10,000 to $15,000 to the individual for that. We're just not going to play around with that. So that would be number 1. Fouling of track. 2 fatalities and an amputation in the last 12 months, not in Texas, 1 in Texas, the others were outside of the state, where railroads will spot trains and cut away from them, tie them down too close to a switch point. Then they shove in with another cut of cars and corner the cut that's sitting there, sometimes with the conductor riding on the back of the train. And that's what happened down in East Texas, where you just got crushed between the 2 cuts of cars. And so cars in the foul, all of our inspectors have instructed that's the first thing they look at every time they go in a yard, and we will take violations every time that we see it. So it's that important. And then roadway worker protection, unsafe tracks, mechanical equipment, and then improper placement of hazmat cars would round that out, are the things that we're really looking for on that. You'll see here the accident factors. No surprise really that a human factors is by far the leading cause of accidents in the business these days. It used to be more evenly spread between human factors, track conditions, mechanical issues, but the invention of the roads, the wayside detectors that are out there now have cut a lot of that stuff down. So now human factors is really what's driving the injuries and the serious accidents across the business. You see motive powers in there, signal, miscellaneous as part of it as well. But this is what's going on. So that's the freight railroad side. Under the Rail Division, we also have from the FTA, similar authority granted to us by the FRA, where we have responsibility for developing the safety programs and the oversight of all 6 of the regional transit authorities in the state of Texas. Soon to be 7, but right now there's 6. So the big ones that you see, that's DART, that's in the picture. They're a modern light rail system similar to Metropolitan down in Houston, modern light rail systems, but we also have under our oversight legacy trolley systems like you see on Galveston Island or like you see in McKinney Avenue in Dallas. And then out in El Paso, they've got a rebuilt streetcar system out there that we have oversight of as well. And the seventh one, that's the sixth. The seventh one is going to be in Austin. Cap Metro is getting ready to build a light rail system right through the middle of downtown Austin. It'll come around up near the university, around the Capitol, and straight up Congress, all the way to Ben White Boulevard, and it'll turn and head towards the airport. That's in the planning stages now. We will be taking responsibility for the oversight of that very soon. So that'll be the seventh RTA that's going to be operating in the state. And so with that, we, like I said, we have to develop the program. The FTA operates very different than the FRA. The FRA, when they want to roll out an initiative, they plan it out. They say, these are the steps that we're going to take. Here's how we're going to monitor it. Here's how we're going to enforce it. So here it is. Let's go do this. The FTA says something like, we want to make a big push on roadway worker protection. Texas, make that happen. And so then we have to go in and develop all of the programs in conjunction with the RTAs, write the programs, do the training, implement the programs, and then provide oversight for it for forever under this program. And so we've got a staff of people that do that. We use a lot of consultants to assist us with that. And you'll see there that DART and Houston Metro are the two biggest. They inherently have the most issues just because of size and geography. Right now, criminal activity is the biggest problem that we have on both of those lines. And criminal activity being you're riding along, someone pulls out a can of mace and discharges it, and they stop the train, everybody has to get off into the right of way. Or somebody pulls out a gun, shoots somebody on the train. And they have to do the same thing, they have to stop. And when they stop, they vacate into an active right of way, which becomes a reportable situation for the FTA. We have to manage, we have to engage in all of those and manage those. And so we have oversight of all of the RTAs, passenger rail, light rail systems that are under the FTA. We have oversight of commuter rails, also the four I mentioned earlier that operate under the FRA. They're still passenger rail, but they operate on freight railroads, same as Amtrak. Those fall under the FRA, where FTA has oversight of the ones that operate on designated track that does not have freight railroad activity on it. So we've got responsibility for those as well. Go ahead, Jason. So that's it. It's a lot of information. We do a lot of things. The four sections, they don't do much similar to the other. If this was a railroad, the people working in those four sections wouldn't know each other. There'd be no reason for them to interact with each other. But at TxDOT, we've all been put together under the umbrella of the rail division, and I'm privileged to be able to manage that division. It's very capable. It's full of very capable individuals. It's professionals. You give them a task, and the task gets done. You don't have to follow up on it like you would on a lot of different places. And so I'm blessed to be able to be standing here in front of you as a director of the rail division, and I'm proud to work for TxDOT. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
All right, we have the microphone set up right here in the middle, and if you would come on over, ask any questions for Don, he'll be more than happy to answer them. Morning, Jeff.
Good morning. Thank you for that presentation.
You're welcome.
I'm just thinking 14 inspectors for everything that you have to say grace over in this state. How many FRA inspectors are assigned to Texas? In other words, how many people out there all together making the safety inspections?
I don't know the exact number of the FRA. I would say there's probably combined between the two groups in the state, there's probably 20 people out there on a daily basis that are doing inspections. It could and should be more, and we're building that program. This is still being developed, and we're still looking to grow that in the future. So I'm with you. We need more out there doing it because there's plenty of work to do. Now, the railroads might say, they may argue with that there needs to be more of them, but I feel like there does.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a couple of questions. The first one involves the number of bridges. I think everybody heard that we lost one on the BNSF yesterday,
Right.
and I'm just wondering what the rail division has responsibility it has in working with BNSF and getting it repaired, fixed, decisions on what happened. You could walk through that if rail division has any interest responsibility at all.
We don't really have any responsibility.
Okay.
It's privately owned assets. Shame that the historic bridge burned, for sure. We will assist them if they have requests for anything, really, whether it be to help them access federal funds, whether it be oversight, whether it be expertise. We'll partner with them any way we can, but we don't have any direct responsibility for that.
Okay. Second question is, how does the rail division work with the Texas State Rail Plan, especially possibility of, for example, we heard last night UP is building a new line into Wadsworth to the Lionel Pacell plant. Does the rail division have any part with that, with the state rail plan, or, but other things like that where railroads do some kind of expansion?
We do. The state rail plan is developed within our division. It feeds into the overall multimodal plan that's going to, I believe there's going to be a presentation about that later today from one of the other modes from TxDOT. Matagorda County, Bay City is the line that you're referencing. The UP is wanting to build a 5-mile new build track to service that facility. We've been involved with that since the very beginning. In fact, we meet with or talk with the UP weekly about it for several different reasons. It's the premise of why it needs to be built is to relieve traffic inside downtown Bay City, Texas. And so it's currently served by a different railroad. It's really an conventional move that they have to make to be able to service. It blocks up downtown for some period of time every time they make the moves. And so the UP has asked us to partner with them, and they really need us to partner with them because they cross TxDOT roadways 4 times on the proposed track. And so we've been working with them on things like train frequency, speed, length of train. If you have an issue, where you're gonna park the train where it doesn't block the roadways. But most recently, we're down to kind of trying to agree on the alignment, where it's going to cross each of the roadways, at what angle it's going to cross, what will the signal protection be, all those things. We're nearing final decision on that, hopefully in the very near future. I've got a meeting on Friday down in Bay City about it, and hopefully we'll be wrapping that up. But that's kind of how we get involved in projects, is when you have things like that need to be evaluated for merit on why do we need to build a new rail, or why does there need to be a new rail line, and then how does it impact the traveling public in Texas. So we've been involved in that one since the very beginning.
Great, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Good morning, Don.
Good morning.
My name's Nick Reha from Michael Baker. Thank you very much for your presentation. You identified how hands-on your division really is, and that's great. That's what we're accustomed to with TxDOT. When you engage a consultant, is there a particular skill set or trait that you're looking for that assistance?
Right, yes, absolutely. So we use consultants for different things, for studies of proposed rail lines or changes, for development of grant programs, writing applications, things like that. But we also use them in the field for assistance with oversight, which would mean expertise in a particular discipline, whether it be passenger rail or freight. To supplement, we use them to supplement manpower. We also use them for access to expertise that we don't have. We utilize the equivalent of about 8 full-time employees in our SSO program, which is the State Safety Oversight for Passenger Rail. And there are people out there that have the expertise that we can get through a consultant that we don't necessarily have on staff. And so we do look for qualifications in a particular discipline whenever we're looking for consultants.
Thank you. And just to clarify, are you looking for more of the planning aspect with the interaction with the roadways, or are you looking more for the technical aspect of like track design?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. Thank you for your presentation. My
morning.
name is Con Lee. I am a member of the Dallas Area Transit Alliance, and I'm wondering what kind of involvement the rail division will have with high-speed rail, because if I recall, the state legislature is active in blocking any kind of TxDOT funding or support for that initiative.
Well, there is no initiative, active. There's nothing that's active to work on right now.
Plans.
The rail division doesn't implement policy, or doesn't set policy, we implement policy. If instructed to engage by the legislature or through the commission or by TxDOT leadership, then we will engage. We will not engage without being instructed to do so in high-speed rail projects.
Thank you.
This may be more important than Don and me than anybody else in the room, but hey, Jason, could you flip back to some of those, one of the slides there? There was something that I realized last night I left out, and it just kind of helps put perspective in on what's being built down there on the border. I showed some slides yesterday. Yeah, right there, that's perfect. I showed some slides of this site as it progressed from last July through, and there were, I referenced 62 piers that were poured that are supporting, you can see them in that middle photo, supporting that building. Those piers, of the 62, almost all of them go about 92 or 94 feet into that riverbed deep. And it was pointed out to us a couple of weeks ago when we were out there, if you take the height of that column on the left side of the right picture, and you add that to the 92 to 94 feet of the piers that are in the ground there, that's the equivalent of having constructed effectively a 14 to 15 story building is what's happened right there. And that just, we talk about this in the abstract so often, and now that we have pictures to see and you hear things like that, a 14 to 15 foot building in Presidio is kind of an amazing thing to think about. I just wanted to point that out real quick. Thank you.
It will be the most amazing structure in Presidio for sure. So, and what you saw, that structure in the photos is only one of three. So adjacent to that, it was not in the frame, is another elevated facility with about 4,000 square feet that will house the operator of the X-ray machine and office space for them. And then about a mile and a half away north, where the rail yard actually is, where the train comes in, where if there's issues, the train will go to have those issues resolved. There's another office facility over there for CBP that will house, I don't know, up to 25 or 30 agents. That's where the canines will be housed and all of those things. There'll be detention facilities there. And so this is a full service border crossing that we're constructing down there. It's been a long time coming, and we're going to be ready to see it done when it's done. I'm sure that at some point, and Stan mentioned yesterday, we'll be having a ribbon cutting down there for it, and I urge any of you that would like to come down and visit with us that day. It's going to be something to see. So, other questions?
Okay, last call. All right, well, wow, I've got to make a little correction to what I said earlier, Don. I was talking about TxDOT continuing to make a lot of baby steps. Well, after seeing the presentation today, I've got to amend that to say you're taking a lot of giant steps, so keep up the good work there.
There's a lot of irons in the fire, that's for sure, but it's, it's good stuff. It's meaningful work. It's projects that are going to improve the safety of the traveling public in the great state of Texas and of the crews that are out there moving trains up and down the track every day. And so to me, that's a win-win. So.
And Rusty Roberts, if he's around, I guess he's going to be ready to write you a big check pretty soon.
All right, I'm ready. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.